So tonight on Dynamite, Cody defends the TNT Championship against Mark Quinn, whose name I only just this show learned is spelled Marquen.
Yeah.
An update on Jon Moxley and Brian Cage. Colt Cabana versus Sammy Guevara, and as Jim Ross reminds us, both men need a win. The Inner Circle versus Orange Cassidy, the Best Friends. A women's tag match with Hikaru Shida and Chris Statlander versus Penelope Ford and Nyla Rose. And the opening match, Butcher and Blade versus FTR. Before that opener, Jericho gets his whole entrance to come out and join the announce desk. He was on commentary all night. He was great all night. He's Chris Jericho.
I thought they did a great job with the four-man booth. Dave thought there were too many people there. I mean, maybe there were, but I didn't notice one time that there were too many people there. And we complain a lot about three-man booths in WWE, and the three-man booths in WWE, I mean, they're three-man booths because they want a three-man booth, not because a three-man booth is better.
Right.
And to me, like, if you have the right three people, you can do a three-person booth. We see it actually every week in AEW. And you know what? If you have the right people, you can do I don't want a four-person booth like every week, but Jericho being added to JR, Excalibur, and Tony, I didn't think for 1 second was overkill.
No, he was great. All four of them are great. I don't think there was one instance of anyone talking over each other. They had great four-way chemistry. Everything, it was fantastic. And Jericho brought a lot to the show, so it's not as if he was out there for no reason. So Butcher and Blade versus FTR. First of all, just a note on the show in general. It appeared to me they had a lot more people in the crowd than they used to. It may just be because they had some of them farther back. They're using more space in Daly's place. But it seemed like there was even more people there than last week, including basically every manager in the promotion scouting this match. Arn is there, Tully is there, Jake Roberts is there. They're all very impressed by these new FTR guys. So early in this match, there's a point where FTR, one of them grabs the tag rope and makes a tag, and Dross points this out. He's got 2 feet on the ground. He's holding the tag rope. He makes a tag. I want to celebrate so hard right now, he notes. And later, near the finish, Butcher and Blade, they do make a tag, but from the camera angle, it's actually hard to tell because Butcher's massive back blocks the entire thing. But they make a tag, and Ross thought there was not one. And when Butcher is in there doing stuff and making covers, Ross is losing his mind about all this. I love JR. So it was kind of weird. We talked about it last week. FTR, in their first match, they were the babyfaces in this match. They were still cheating. They were still being devilish. But the way the match is put together and built and paced, it was designed to get you to cheer for them. Dax Harwood. It's Harwood, right? Cash Wheeler and Dax Harwood.
Harwood, yes.
It's definitely Dax. Dax got the hot tag. Made a great comeback and an awesome brainbuster. They had the Powerplex and Power and Glory used to use. It was not the finish. And eventually, all 4 men in the ring. I'm very sad. 2 things about FTR make me sad. 1, they can no longer use their WWE music, which I thought was awesome. 2, even more importantly, apparently they can no longer call what was their finish the Shatter Machine, which is the best name for a wrestling move ever. It is now the Good Night Express. Wink, wink. They tried it on the Butcher, and I don't know why they tried it, because he's enormous, and they screwed it up. It looked like crap. And so instead they pinned the Blade with the Mind Breaker, which is just a stuff pile driver. But hey, new team showed up, had a fun opener, and they won, so all is right in the world.
Obviously, big fans of the Brainbusters, hence the Mind Breaker. And I realize this is a nitpick to end all nitpicks, but it's a fucking stuff pile driver. I mean, a stuff pile driver sounds so much more devastating than the Mind Bender, or whatever they're calling it, the Mind Breaker. So anyway, I wish they would just call it a stuff pile driver, but match was great. They got to wrestle other wrestlers in a wrestling match.
They sure did.
And fucking lo and behold, it was great. I'm sure Kevin Dunn was like, fuck this wrestling shit. But I thought it was awesome. Very, very good match.
So Shivani goes to interview FTR, and they talk about being in the pinnacle of professional wrestling, the pinnacle of tag team wrestling. But before they can get any farther, out come the Young Bucks to congratulate them. And thank them as well, because FTR debuted by saving the Bucks from a beatdown. So while they are grateful for that, Matt is sure to point out, you failed to properly introduce yourselves to us. And I laughed, and I laughed, and I laughed, and I laughed. So they're going to do it now. They're going to introduce themselves now. My name is Matt. This is my brother Nick. We are the Young Bucks. We have been carrying tag team wrestling for the past decade and a half. It's so nice to meet you, finally. And they go to offer a handshake. But before we can see what happens next, Butcher and Blade attack, Sabian and Havoc attack, Omega and Page are out there. There's a big Donnybrook, and eventually the three babyface teams of Young Bucks, Omega and Page, and FTR are left staring at each other, and we go to the break. This segment was a win.
It was a win, but it was funny because this is one of those things that only happens in pro wrestling. So the match ends, and the Young Bucks want to introduce themselves and be introduced to FTR, but a bunch of heels run in, and they attack them, but babyfaces run out, and the ring gets cleared, and really, we're right back where we started.
Sure.
But now we don't introduce ourselves.
They could have shook hands at the end, but the moment was gone.
We needed Charlie Caruso there to just say, FTR and the Young Bucks, I'm afraid we're out of time. And then they look at each other awkwardly for an extended period of time, and we go to commercial.
Perfect. We did not have Charlie Caruso. We had Dasha, who interviews the Natural Nightmares. And yes, Allie is there with them. So it's Allie and QT Marshall and Dustin Rhodes and Brandy. I think that's it. So next week, for unexplained reasons, the Natural Nightmares are getting a World Tag Team title shot. I have zero idea what they have done to earn this. But Brandy doesn't even want to talk about that. She is just appalled that Allie is there wearing the family jacket. And QT tries to say, well, she's my girl. I'm the Natural Nightmare. She's wearing my jacket, which makes sense to me. But Dustin interrupts, gets in his face. He wants QT to know what's at stake here. I need you in the game. I've been a World Tag Team Champion many times. I want to be World Tag Team Champions again. I need you in the game. This right here, he says, and points to Allie. Get it out of your system. Because next week, she won't be ringside with us.
So they go back to the announcers, and to their credit, Tony Schiavone plays the role of Brian Alvarez. Says, what the hell's up with Allie? Why is she with QT? I don't trust this woman.
And many unanswered questions going on here.
Yes, and at least they're acknowledging that something is different, but we don't know why. Great.
Penelope Ford and Nyla Rose versus Chris Statlander and Hikaru Shida. I guess technically there was kind of a heat segment here, but this is basically four women take turns doing wrestling moves on each other. But they worked very, very hard, so they made it work. One of the highlights was Nyla doing the diving double knee drop with both of her opponents draped over the ropes. So Kip Sabian, is there in the heel tag team corner. He trips Shida as she is running the ropes. Statlander sees this, wipes him out with a tope, but this distracts the referee. Nyla tosses the belt to Ford. Ford wallops Shida with it and gets the pin with a Fisher Woman suplex. So there you go. Penelope Ford has just pinned the champion. New challenger established. Fun match. Enjoyed this segment.
Yeah, I thought the match was pretty good. They've been actually very good lately about distracting the referee if somebody's going to interfere, but streak's over. Fucking Kip Sabian grabs the foot right in front of the referee. Ref looks right at him. Does nothing about it. Statlander wipes him out with the dive, and then Penelope hits the belt shot. I mean, it's probably a nitpick, but I think I probably would have had Penelope beat her clean, because Penelope has never been put in any sort of position where you're supposed to believe that, like, she could be the champion. She virtually always loses. Every now and then she'll get a win in a tag match or whatever. But when you're a weak challenger, I think something needs to be done to make you a strong challenger if you're actually going to challenge for the title. So if she's getting a title shot at Fyter Fest, I don't know. It just sort of felt like, well, you got a belt shot. But, I mean, do I believe as a fan right now that Penelope Ford has any fucking chance whatsoever to beat Hikaru Shida for the women's title? No. Not for 1 second do I think that's possible. So I probably would have just done a clean pin, or at least a cleaner pin. Maybe not totally clean. I mean, maybe grab the tights or something like that. But belt shot was just too, I don't know. I didn't like it as much.
I think you're nitpicking. You're welcome to your opinion, but she's a devilish, vile, cheating heel. She cheated here to get the win, and maybe she'll be able to cheat again at Fyter Fest, but it's just as likely Shida will get her own revenge and give this Penelope Ford woman the loss she deserves. I think.
Well, I mean, you could have very easily just had Kip Sabian trip up Sheeta, and Penelope grabs her and hits her finish and wins. So they cheated, and you know that Kip Sabian's going to be there, and Penelope got the win with a finish. She actually beat her. I mean, that would have been easy.
Well, how is that different than what they did?
She hit her with a metal belt.
Yes, and then hit her wrestling move and pinned her.
Anyway.
All right. Darby Allin video. He's hanging out with Tony Hawk.
Yes.
And that's Tony Hawk. There are Tony Hawk's.
What's funny about this, Vinny?
What's that?
Let me preface this, okay? So this skit here with Tony Hawk, Darby had on his social media earlier in the week. And on our board, I don't know if it was on our board or if it was somewhere else, but like people were talking about, oh my God, Tony Khan has got to be furious with Darby Allin for this. Because the whole gimmick, Darby Allin's supposed to be hurt and he can't get cleared to wrestle. And literally this skit starts with Tony Hawk saying, well, I know you're not cleared to wrestle, but hey, you're cleared to skate. And
Yes.
then Darby Allin's like fucking killing himself 50 times falling up this goddamn ladder when he's supposed
Yes.
to be injured.
Yes.
So like everybody thought, oh man, Tony Khan's going to be furious. Darby Allin doing this video, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, he was so furious that he put this video on national television.
Yes. It was weird. It was funny. I watched it at first, and I think, why are they showing Darby Allin falling off his skateboard over and over and over again? But in the end, he pulled off the trick. He skated
never
down a
gives
ladder.
up.
He never gives up, and in the end, he accomplished what he wanted to do. So, yes.
It's
very
the story of his career. He will fail
Actually, it is.
and fail and fail and fail and fail and fail, but keep trying, and eventually he's gonna win the big one.
I'm actually going to disagree with you. They are going to change one letter, but it's a very important letter in the case of Darby Allin. It's not that he will fail and fail and fail. He will fall and fall and fall.
Yes.
in the literal and metaphorical sense. But he will always rise at the end. We have a Britt Baker video. This show, I don't know what is up. They had a ton of hype videos. That's not even really a complaint, but they were just all over this. So it's another Britt Baker workout video. There is a shot. It's probably less than a second. But it's Britt smiling and posing in her wheelchair as Rebel is behind her. And Rebel looks in the camera and is so exasperated and tired with this whole thing. And I laughed and laughed and laughed. So they showed Britt's conflict with Big Swole last week. Says Swole has had unexpected challenges. I've also had unexpected challenges. I had a microbiology exam that I was not prepared for. But of course, I aced it. And while I am happy to be a role model, I need respect as well.
I was watching this downstairs, and Whitney's overworking on the couch, and she's listening to this, and she just looks over at me disgusted. I said, she's actually a legit dentist.
Yes.
She was like, really? I said,
Yes.
yeah. Anyway, what I like about all these videos, because you're right, there were a lot of videos on this show, but you know what? The videos are being used to try to get people over.
Sure.
And when I watch this show, top to bottom, I feel like I know every single character on this show.
That's true.
Maybe with the exception of like Chucky, but I mean, at least I know he's like a weird fucking bizarre dude.
I don't think there's that much more to know.
But I don't know fucking anything else about him. He needs a video package. But anyway, listen, I didn't know not one goddamn fucking thing about the Revival until they actually came to AEW.
Sure.
Like, the crowds chanted, which one's Dash, which one's Dawson? They never told me. They never told me shit about either of them. I didn't understand a thing about the fucking Forgotten Sons. I still barely know anything about them. But I watched this show, and I know something about fucking every single person on this show. And it's because of video packages like this that are just short little things designed to tell you about who they are, their personality, what they're like. It's great. It's a pro wrestling show. That's what I love about it.
It certainly is. Jake Hager and Proud and Powerful versus Orange Cassidy, the best friends. They jump Orange on the ramp, and as Chris Jericho very astutely notes, Jake Hager beating up Orange Cassidy looks like Jake Hager beating up a 15-year-old version of himself. It's exactly right. That may be time travel right there. So eventually, he is able to drag himself to the apron, make his hot tag with Hager, and they did very little comedy here. Orange just made a hot tag and a comeback, and he is so good. He's so ridiculously good. And then sadly, he was cut off and laid out in the corner, and Proud and Powerful ended his life with a cannonball, just squashed him. There's some kind of triple team is broken up, and Orange pins Santana with that one, I forget what it's called, but it's that one cradle that starts off with a Russian leg sweep, where you roll forward with it and cradle the guy. Pin him with a cradle. So Orange wins, but the Inner Circle immediately attacks, including Jericho. They lay waste to the Best Friends. They especially lay waste to Orange. He ends up bleeding, I guess, from a bat shot. And then, because they have such little respect for this guy, they get a bag of oranges out from under the ring. And it's a big-ass bag of oranges. They claimed it weighed about 20 pounds. It may have been 20 pounds of oranges. Blood oranges at that. And I was trying to figure out how they're going to make it work. Because it's a big, giant bag of oranges, but it's still oranges. But Jericho, he just swung this thing like a pro, and Orange watched it coming, and with perfect timing, he bumped when it got there, so laid him out. Like, it looked good, but not like they actually killed him, like when Orange's head was kicked off by Rey Fenix. So they managed to use oranges as an effective weapon, so good on them. And they beat him a lot, and then Jericho declares Blood Orange Cassidy has been juiced.
You know, a couple of things here. First off, 45 minutes ago, I killed that fly, and the fly just came back to life. So I don't know how, but I wanted to at least update everyone of this situation.
Zombie fly.
It's the fucking weirdest thing I've ever seen. So, number 2. Last night, Dave was talking about how Jericho hit this guy with a baseball bat. And then he just starts hitting him with oranges. Like he was aghast. Oranges? Hitting the guy with oranges? And it reminded me of a jiu-jitsu seminar I went to a long time ago, where Pedro Sauer was testing all these people for black belt, and he wants them to go through Elio Gracie's stand-up self-defense book. All of this old school stuff from like the 1920s. And there's all of these, guy grabs your collar and you go underneath into a hammerlock. It's actually a bunch of stuff that you probably learned in pro wrestling.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
But this is the alleged legit version of it.
Sure.
But anyway, he's turning all the pages, two-handed front choke defense. Two-handed front choke defense with arm hold. He's just reading all these. And then he turns a page and he gets to one that says, karate chop. And sure enough, a couple of the people testing have the exact same reaction you do. They laugh. And Pedro very quietly says, I want you to put your hands behind your back, and your partner is going to chop you in the neck as hard as he can. And, of course, everyone stopped laughing.
Yeah.
Because the idea of a karate chop is funny until you let someone chop you in the fucking neck as hard as they can. Then it's not so funny anymore. Right. So, as I'm thinking about it today, as Dave is making fun of Orange Cassidy getting hit with oranges, I was like, if Dave and I go on this cruise next year, I'm going to tell Jericho to get a fucking 25-pound bag of oranges, and he's going to swing them at Dave, and we're going to find out if he takes it or if he goes running. And I'll bet you anything he's going to go running.
Did you just write a check that Dave's ass has to cash?
Yes, I just did.
Okay.
And then they squeeze all this orange juice into Orange Cassidy's cut.
Yes.
I was like, fuck. That's probably the worst. That's probably the worst pain he's ever felt in his wrestling career, and nobody even mentioned it.
It would be up there. Shivani is interviewing the Gun Club at ringside, but MJF interrupts. He says, how is it that I am undefeated for over a year? I am the holder of the Dynamite Diamond Ring. I have been ranked number 1 for weeks, yet Jungle Boy gets a title shot before I do. It's because the management doesn't like me. I get dirty looks backstage because everyone knows they've hit a ceiling, but I am the ceiling. I'm a white shark in a sea of minnows. And finally, Billy can take no more. He interrupts and says something. MJF responds by taking a shot at his talentless sons. Don't mess with Billy Gunn's family. He grabs MJF. MJF pleads for Wardlow to show up, and Wardlow and Billy have a stare down, but cooler heads prevail, and that's the end of that. Colt Cabana Dark Order video recap, and here was where I first noticed there was a lot of videos in the show.
This is a fucking zombie fly, but go ahead.
Sammy Guevara versus Colt Cabana. Sammy, by the way, his clearly he's fine. He's wrestling, but he still has the scooter as part of his entrance. That's funny. So
Hit me up mobile.
Thank you. Actually, yes, that's important. That's a part of the joke. It's the hit me up mobile. So they're telling a very simple and effective story with Colt here. They had a very good wrestling match, and the finish was Colt hit the moonsault, which is one of his biggest moves, but it wasn't good enough. Sammy kicks out. So Colt tried the Chicago Skyline, but he slipped, and Sammy caught him, hit the GTH, which I assume stands for Go to Hell, for the win. Sammy gets his win. Colt's losing streak continues, and his losing streak continues because his stuff isn't good enough, and he keeps fucking up. So as Colt is moping, out comes Evil Uno and Grayson, returning to Dynamite for the first time since this whole pandemic thing began. And the rest of the Dark Order is there. Mr. Brody Lee is there. Brody goes to ringside. Colt's been down the whole time. And all Brody does is he extends a hand, and Colt takes it. Brody pulls him to his feet, and then they all leave. And Colt's left in the ring. And he's confused, he's conflicted, he's unsure what to do. And as he is leaving, for those of you who don't watch Dynamite, there's an entrance over here and an entrance over here. And the good guys come out over here, and the bad guys come out over here. Colt came out of this one. But as he's leaving the ring, he gets to the fork in the road, and he has to make a decision. And they go to a wide shot, and there's Colt Capena's back, and these two choices, and you can't see his face. You don't know what he's thinking, but he pauses, and eventually he turns to the left, and he goes to the evil guy's entrance. He's following the Dark Order. That shot was so great. As he leaves, Sammy is just happy that big fat loser is gone. He wants his music played. What's that?
Matt Hardy.
Oh.
The line of the night.
Oh. Matt Hardy comes out. At first, I guess he's just Matt Hardy. He respects Sammy Guevara. He sees in Sammy Guevara a young Matt Hardy, a stronger-than-death mindset. No matter how hard you get hit, he says, you always get up, and I respect you. You're the future of AEW, but to maximize your potential, you have to get away from Chris Jericho. Sammy says, why should I listen to you? You tried to kill me twice. And then Matt has a transformation, a vision, and he turns into broken Matt Hardy. And what is it, Brian, that broken Matt Hardy says to Sammy Guevara?
He says, Samuel, these events must be documented. I'm going to mash you into a mofongo and eat you. Fucking died.
Mash you into a mofongo
I'm
and
going to mash you into a mofongo and eat you. It's the second time he's used the mofongo line.
There was a point here, by the way, I missed this in my notes. There was a version 1 Matt appearing briefly, along with the matter of facts, which also mentioned that he is fond of mofongo.
Yes.
We gotta have mofongo on the Christmas show. Gotta get that done.
Dude. There's a lot of money that could be made off this mofongo.
There is, actually. There is. So Sammy is skeeved out by this mofongo-mashing killer and eater of men. He runs, and all I can think was, see, I totally understand why Sammy Guevara is afraid of Matt Hardy. I have zero idea why Roderick Strong is afraid of Dexter Lumis. One makes sense, the other does not. A Joey Janela video. He's getting drunk. I'm sure this is just a work. He says that he came to AEW. Yeah. He came to AEW to be a star. What happened? 6 months ago, he was main eventing with Jon Moxley. Then he faded into darkness. Feels like his best moments are behind him. He's shuffling out the bar and down the street when he runs into Sonny Kiss and his convertible.
Yes.
And Sonny asks if he needs
sweet
any help.
Ride.
It was a sweet convertible. It was sweet. And Janela says that he needs a ride, and he gets in, and they drive away, and this is to be continued. We cut backstage. Now, we talk about WWE interview women and people being robots. I'm not even sure what to say about Dasha and the way she was looking for Colt Cabana. But you have never seen someone just stand there and look for somebody so hard. It's like she's looking at a wall. She's at the walls of the building. But it was easy to imagine she was looking at the biggest Where's Waldo picture of all time.
It was her and 35 other interviewers that you didn't see off screen, and they were all told whoever sees him first gets $1 million.
Now, the one spot she didn't look was down the other end of the hallway. So Cabana comes from that end. She sees Cabana. You've lost to Chris Jericho, she asks. You've lost to Sammy Guevara. Is that what brought you here? And he goes up to Brody Lee's office, and he walks in and closes the door behind him. Next week on AEW Dynamite, Billy of the Gun Club versus MJF. Kenny Omega and Hangman Page versus the Natural Nightmares for the World Tag Team titles. A TNT Championship match. Whoever wins the championship match tonight defending against an unnamed opponent. Les Sex Gods, Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara versus the Best Friends, and the Best Friends have put their Fyter Fest title shot at stake. And the Super Bad Death Squad, and yes, that is officially the name of Kip Sabian and Jimmy Havoc. The Super Bad Death Squad taking on the Young Bucks. Alex Marvez is interviewing Jon Moxley, who just arrived at the building here 10 minutes before we go off the air. He's in a real bad mood. It's not because of how much everything hurts. It's because he has no patience for people who run their mouths when they have no idea what they're talking about. Taz is saying Cage will beat me at Fyter Fest. Taz, if you're trying to get under my skin, it worked. I can't wait to pop Brian Cage's head and shut Taz up for good. The idea of anyone thinking they can beat me pisses me off. It makes me more violent, makes me less apologetic. And finally, Taz shows up. Taz says, you need to get over yourself. I've heard enough chirping. Get yourself right. Get your head right. But this, of course, is just a distraction. Brian Cage zooms in from out of nowhere. He attacks Moxley. They have a brawl, and it ends with Moxley getting slammed into a car window, and Taz pulls Cage away. Right.
Taz is the greatest. Have I mentioned this before?
Taz is the greatest. And then
we've had a lot of greatest on this show here tonight, by the way.
We had two very good shows tonight. There's no doubt about that. We had a Cody Mark Quinn video package highlighting this TNT Championship match. All right, I am at a 6% battery life, so I'm going to try and get through this without my computer dying. So, Private Party got new music. It has 1,000 times better music for this act. It fits them 1,000 times better. They're wearing Black Lives Matter armbands. The announcers point this out. And Mark Quinn, he's had the storyline. He hit a dive and sold his leg, and I talked about how he got hurt, and you scolded me for being a mark and being worked. He's either really hurt or he's the best seller in 2020 because he's limping throughout this match.
He wasn't hurt.
He's the best seller of 2020. When he's limping around the ring, he's still doing all his moves, but every one you can tell he's in pain. He can barely move. He's limited in what he can do. He's still able to hit all his big dives, but each one comes at a bigger and bigger cost. He hits a series of dives. Cody rolls outside of the ramp. So Quinn hits a 450 from there, which hurts both of them. But it's a title match. It's the TNT Championship match. So you got to pull out all the stakes, or pull out all the stops, whatever that saying is. He throws Cody into the ring. Goes for a shooting star press. Cody dodges, catches him in an ankle lock, turns it into an Indian deathlock kind of thing, and Quinn taps. Cody wins. This is a pretty good little TV match. Mark Quinn is awesome, and this story they're telling of Cody getting worn down every week is very, very good.
So I guess I'm the only one on the planet who was driven crazy by all of the flipping and jumping in this match, and you're allowed to like or dislike whatever you want, everybody. You know I'm 45 years old tomorrow, Vinny. Today, actually. 45 years old. I'm now an old man. Now. I feel that I'm allowed to give advice to the youngsters. And my advice is you're allowed to like or dislike whatever you want. And I did not think this was a bad match. Mark Quinn is very green. Cody, I thought, did a good job with him. But I was so taken out of this match every time this dude did a giant jumping flip dive over the top rope with his supposedly bad leg. Like, to me, the whole point of working over somebody's leg, especially a high flyer, is the story is then, well, they can't fly. Because they usually run, and they usually jump, and they usually flip, but you have taken their legs out. Now they can't do it anymore. Now they have to find another way to win. That's the story. If every time you work over somebody's leg, They just go out there and they do all the same flips and all the same dives and all the same 450s and the 3 straight flip dives over the top, then what the fuck is the point of working over the leg at all? Except to just do something during a match. I don't like it, okay? And I have the right to not like it. Now, I had some people on the board going, Brian, I've watched a million real sports.
Yes.
And so was hurt, and they still managed to do whatever. Okay, here's the big difference, all right? The reason these things get over big in sports is because a lot of times when people get hurt, they can't continue. You fall down on the court, and they take you out of the game. You get smashed during the football game, they take you off the field and you're out. Every now and then somebody gets some sort of injury, but you know what? They don't get carted off the field. And they get back in there, and they manage to still compete with the injury, and they do something that seems miraculous. That's why it's a fucking story. If 85% of the time, when you work over someone's leg, they can't jump anymore, then the 15% of the time when someone actually does overcome, then it is a story. But in every fucking single solitary match, you work over the guy's leg, and he does the same fucking comeback anyway, so what's the point? That's my opinion. I'm sticking with it. If you love it, you're welcome to. You're welcome to love it. It's whatever you want to love. But I watch it, and all I can think is, this is fake. This guy could not do 3 straight flip dives with a broken fucking leg or whatever. He just can't. So that's my thoughts. Time to vote.
Welcome to that, Brian. Well, very quickly, Hager comes out. There's a giant brawl with a ton of guys. Cody challenges Hager to face him for the TNT title at Fyter Fest, and that match is on. So it is time to vote.
That match is going to be good.
That's an all-American, legit all-American wrestler from Oklahoma and a state champion high school wrestler. So yes, I suspect that'll be a very, very fun match.
And 2 long-time professional wrestlers.
And 2 guys who've been professional wrestlers for a long, long time. It is time to vote. I thought both shows were very, very good, but I just loved this NXT so much. The biggest reason is Cameron Grimes, but I also love the stuff with Breezango. I loved... I forgot everything else on that show now. I enjoy the Gargano's match.
Must have been great.
Yeah, it's that's bad radio. I'm tired. And now my notes program just crashed. Listen, I'm voting NXT.
Well, as I look at both of these shows here, I mean, initially I was very angry watching the NXT show with the weirdness with Dexter Lumis. Is he there? Is he not? And the Phantom Kidnappers. But as I review the shows, as I review both shows, I was originally thinking of giving a tie, but I've decided that this week I'm going to give the win to NXT. Mm-hmm. I think as a whole, overall, I think I just enjoyed that show a little bit more. And I had some things to laugh about. I had some fantasy booking I could come up with in my own head.
You did.
Yeah, I didn't have to rant and rave about a guy not selling his fucking leg.
That's true.
So this week, NXT is getting the win on my scorecard.
All right.
One of these days, Vinny, you're going to have to add them up so we can get the final tallies here. We're halfway through the year.
Almost 2 more shows, but yeah, I can give you the scoreboard right now.
All right.
I've been tracking it. We just never announced it, but yeah, through what would that be? 22 weeks of the year. The score is AEW 33, NXT 9, and 6 ties.
Wow, almost 7 ties.
I will say that in the past. Let's see here. 5 weeks. It looks like NXT's got 5 wins to 4 for AEW with 1 tie. So they're rallying.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
They're making a comeback.
Well, we'll see if they can keep that up. All right, everybody, we're out of time.